Hello, welcome to our tutorial number 4 for WPF Real World Application. And when we left the last time, we were just completing the initial setup of our window. We set the size that we wanted. We gave it the title. We also did the resize mode so that we would know that it would remain a specific size, and we also wanted it to open in the center of the screen. This was, of course, trying to target one of our requirements, which is we need to have the software install and run on several operating systems. And we made a decision as the architect or the designer of the application that these particular sizings and these abilities were going to allow us to meet that requirement as much as possible. So that was a decision, and you make decisions all the time trying to meet the needs of your customers, but for us that's what we decided to do in this particular application. So next we want to give it an icon, because when you start your application and it comes up and opens up your main window, typically all applications will have a little icon up here, and we want to give this application an icon so it looks professional and clean. And how do we do that? Well, we know that when we've selected the window area and we have the properties of that window open, that we have available to us a icon selection drop down, but there's nothing in it. So we first need to bring the icon into our Solution Explorer as a resource that we can use. So right click on your project, go to Add Existing Item, and now go ahead and find the icon that you made or that you got that you want to use. It can be anything. I happen to have one that I'm going to use, which is this little fave icon that I've made, and I have other things coming later for this project, but that's my icon that I'm going to use for my project. I put that in, and at this point now I can go back to my properties and I have that icon available in the drop down box for my window, and I'll just simply select it, and if I run the program at this point, my window will now come up and I have a nice little icon on my main window, which is going to, of course, one of those details that makes your application look more professionally done. So what's next? We have an icon now for our window, and we're in this main window, and when we look at our requirements, I've added here something that I didn't put in originally in the past video, but in these requirements we definitely need to have some type of image on this. When the customer or the user of this application first opens it up, we want them to be able to see something that is visually appealing, that is along the topic of the application, in this case a zoo, an educational zoo. So what we need to do is create a background image, if you will, for this particular window. And in order to do that, we're also going to have to bring in a resource of some image. Now, you can make it any image you want for the purpose of this tutorial. I have some pre-made images that I've made before. I just simply use Photoshop. If you're not familiar with Photoshop, this may be an area that you bring somebody in to make some nice looking images for your application, however you want to work it. But the bottom line is that we need to have some type of image here on our front window when it opens up that relates to what our particular program is doing. In our case, a zoo. So again, let's go up here to our project. We're going to right click on it and we're going to say Add Existing Item. And in our existing items area, we're looking at, these are images, like I say, that I already made. So I'm going to choose my background image that I made and bring it in as a reference. So now, how am I going to use that becomes several ways. You can, of course, go down here into your grid area and start putting in an image if you'd like. That's one way. You can grab your image from your tools and bring it over and drop it into your window, which I think is going to be the way that we will do it, because I want you to see some things that we're doing and how we're going to change it in order to make everything okay. But notice that it still didn't give us anything because we don't have an image. We just pulled kind of a framework over there, if you will. So what we're going to do is we're going to click our cursor here on this image line and go over and find source. We have to provide it with a source. Now, because we brought our JPEG background or JPEG image in, we should be able to drop down here and see our selections of our items that we've brought into our project, or our solution, if you will. So I'm going to select the background, and now you can see that there is a picture in that image. But we're going to want our image to really be the whole window. So we're going to have to make a couple adjustments to that. The first thing is we can take out all these margins and vertical and that type of thing and just simply leave the source. That's going to open it up considerably, but it still doesn't fit because the image really isn't quite what it needs to be, or exactly the same sizing as the window that we've created. And remember, we specifically made the window a sizing. So let's go ahead and look at what we can do about that. And what we can do about that is there should be a stretch property for our image. And that image is now set for uniform. Let's go ahead and make it fill. Our XAML area down here simply updates with what we've selected. Remember, this is all our visual type layouts and looks. And now we're done. We have our zoo adventure, and if we run the program, we're going to have now a window that opens up in the center. It provides us an icon so that we're looking like we professionally did this. It provides us a pleasing item when the user first opens up the window. It has the reference to what we're trying to make, which is a zoo or animal type educational application. So I think that we've met our needs in that area, although simplistically that is the approach that we're taking at this moment in time. However, we're a long way from complete on this front window. We still need to have the buttons that allow us to navigate through the application. They have to be sectioned with our now known 5 different animal sections. So we're going to have at least 5 buttons that take us to a amphibian area, an arthropod area, a birds area, a mammal area, reptile area, whatever the case may be. So we know that we're going to have some buttons. We know also that we're going to have some controls that turn things on and off when you're hovering. So we have several more things that we have to make on this front window. But as far as initially, we now have a program that when it opens up, at least that front window looks like it applies to the application that we're trying to make, which is a zoo style or animal educational thing. We have a title for it on the window. We have an icon that looks there. So we just need to continue at this point adding the items that meet the requirements of the overall application and still present a reasonable, good looking type application or software that users are going to enjoy and users are going to tell people about, because that's what you want to do for your customer. Now, a little organizational thing here. As I bring in resources for our project, I like to separate things out a little bit lot more than just bring them in and have this big giant long list in my solution explorer. So I have a tendency to add a couple folders. Usually if I'm going to have images, I will put the images into the folders. I'll put the audio files into a folder. I'll put the video files into the folder. So because we know that we're going to have several images and that we're going to have several different audio and video files, let's create a couple groups here before we end this particular tutorial with just a little bit of organizational aspects. So right click and we're going to add a new item. Well, that new item is going to be a folder. We want to add a folder. And where is it? Why is that? Okay, let's cancel this. Actually, I think maybe add a new folder. I could have selected it right on the window and my brain kind of let me down. So we're going to add a new folder. In that new folder, we're simply going to call this audio. Let's add a folder for the other items that we know. We're going to add a folder for video. And also let's add a folder for images. At that point, what we can do is we can actually start moving our stuff or our resources that we're using into those items. And now when we bring something in, it will show up down here and we can move it into the folders, and it keeps things, at least for me, I think it keeps things much more neat and organized. So I'm going to take our background image and I'm going to put it up into the images area. I don't really worry too much about the icon. I can leave that down in there. I might want to use the icon for the main app later on. But I do like to organize images, videos, audio. Sometimes I will, if there's XML files that I'm using for references in my applications, I'll make a folder of files. And you can organize it any way you want. This is simply how I do it, and it works for me. Other people have different organizational aspects that they like to do. So let's now run the program. And when we run the program, the window will come up and we have our nice little window that is all there. So moving that image over had no effect, but we do have a squiggly mark down here. Why is that? And it tells us could not find that. So it was kind of a memory thing. Well, that's because we moved it into our images folder. So all we really need to do is just update this. The squiggly line goes away. Our window now shows back, because if you notice that once we had that squiggly line, after coming back and it determined that it couldn't find it, see, we have a window that may or may not, depending on how your memory is going, may or may not have that in there. So we were lucky the last time that we had it in there, but you can see it will show you the area. Visual Studio will show you the error that's going on. And that's really the point I wanted to make, was that it will do that. So let's go ahead and put in the images. And now we have our image back, and everything can be neatly done for the future. So for this tutorial, that's going to be the end of it, and we'll come back next time and we're going to start adding some buttons, and we're going to start adding a few other elements of our application in order to meet our customers' needs. And don't worry, very soon we're going to be starting to get into actual coding. I know right now some of you may be going, oh, come on, we're supposed to be learning C#. But we're really learning how to build an application. So for now, see you later in the next tutorial, which will be number 5.